This is coming home. And when you get a chance to go back home in this profession, it is extremely important. And it is extremely critical to everybody involved. I can express the joy that I have right now to be able to come back and work with the Blanks, to be able to come back and work with all these people around me that I've been with for years. And I could talk about this for the rest of the press conference. I probably may bore you, but I don't know if you've ever been in this spot to coming back home, but this is certainly the best feeling in the world.
We are back at the NFL Report, and you just heard new Falcons head coach Raheem Morris at his introductory press conference. And JP, we are now joined by Falcons general manager Terry Fontenot, who was part of the committee that helped bring Raheem Morris back to Atlanta. Terry, thanks so much for joining us. And let's get right to it, Terry. The decision to go with Raheem. I mean, he's been in your building for a couple weeks now. Just a feeling you have of bringing him back and you and him getting to work together for the first time.
Yeah, Steve, James, first of all, appreciate y'all having me on. And before we get into football, I do want to acknowledge yesterday and let everyone in Kansas City know that down here in Atlanta, our thoughts and prayers are with them, with everyone that was affected by those tragic events. But to your question, very excited about Raheem, and it was a thorough, detailed process with a lot of people involved. We talked to 14 of the brighter minds in the NFL, including some veterans, some younger guys. But man, Raheem really stuck out throughout that whole process. His infectious positive energy, the football acumen he has. He has a clear vision of what we're going to do here, and he's a two-time champ, and he knows how we're going to get there. So it's been really fun working with him.
Terry, appreciate you acknowledging Kansas City off the top. Classy move, appreciate it. What I'd like to pass this forward to is, once you hire a coach, once you have a staff, I don't know if people at home really know what goes on inside of a building. If you could kind of tell us kind of the process once that staff's in place, how both sides, from evaluating what's happening in free agency and the upcoming draft, and just the process from your side and the coaching staff side, how you maybe start mending it all together and how you go about the next several weeks after Raheem is hired.
Yeah, great question. We're right in the midst of that process right now. The first step is to really take a hard look at your roster. You really have to look internal. Before you go out and buy new clothes, you need to know what you have in your own closet. So that's what we're doing right now. And we're spending a lot of time with the coaches, and not only the new coaches, but the coaches that have been here, really going through our entire roster. And we'll spend time in those roster meetings in the coming weeks. And once you do that, you spend a lot of time with the coaches going through the specific profile and the details of the players that we're going to be bringing in, spending time with the coaches and the scouts and getting the staff together in regards to what's going to be the profile of what a Falcon looks like in all three phases of the game. And from there, we can devise the right plan and make sure we have the plan to attack free agency, to attack the draft in the right way. So it starts off with looking at your own players.
But Terry, you've been part of the process of building this roster for the past few years, and there is no denying there is a tremendous amount of talent on both sides of the ball. I mean, you went big on defensive free agency last year. You drafted big at the skill positions on offense. But the big question is the quarterback. I mean, I've been told by people in your organization, you guys plan to be very aggressive to get the quarterback that you need. What does that mean? Does that mean trading up? Does that mean going into free agency? What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, we won't close any doors, Steve. You're right. That's a top priority for us this offseason, and it's exciting. Again, not only people that have been in the building, but people outside the building, from Raheem and Zach, TJ Yates, Ken Zampese, DJ Williams. We have a lot of really smart people in the building. We're going to spend a lot of time together, make sure we attack that the right way. We're not going to close any doors, be it trades, free agency, the draft. We'll make sure we keep an open mind there, and we're going to attack it and make sure we get it right.
Terry, you mentioned the draft. You're sitting there at 8. A quarterback could be in play there at 8. You may feel the decision has to be made that you need to move up. This is kind of what you can tell with this question as well, what I'm fascinated with. How do those conversations kind of start with other teams? What's the pacing, I guess, in terms of the conversations you would maybe have just to feel it out? And when do those really around the NFL start heating up?
Well, you're right. I'm actually sitting right outside. We're right in the midst of our February draft meetings. Our area scouts are in town, and we have a lot of stuff going on simultaneous to getting ready to get with the coaches
Okay.
and work through our roster. We're also going through our draft meetings right now just with the scouts. So this is the phase where you're just meeting about with the scouts, and then we get the coaches involved, and then we get into the combine and all that stuff. But it's really fun, and I'll tell you what, it's a really strong draft, not just at quarterback, but a lot of positions. So that's really fun. To your question, talking about that communication, you keep that open line, and you start talking right now, just touching base with because
Okay.
you have some GMs that were just put in place in some areas. So you make sure you have that line of communication open. You spend time at the combine, and so we're always talking about everything. We're very open to communicate, but it's going to be a fun year because I would say it's a very strong draft.
Terry, I know you're not going to give me an exact answer on this, and I would expect any
I
general
might,
manager
Steve.
to.
Don't sell yourself short.
I know you.
You're very
I know
savvy.
you.
The way
Okay.
you ask the question, sometimes you get them. You
Okay,
could
then.
get breaking news right now. Live.
Okay, well, let's go there then. The one player who continues to be linked to you via potential trade conversations is Justin Fields out of Chicago. He's from Atlanta, but you had an opportunity to draft him a couple years ago and you decided not to. Can a player like Justin Fields show enough evolution in the first couple years of his career? And like you said, you now have a coaching change, or maybe there's a different philosophy to make you change your mind about going and getting a player like him.
Now, I gave you too much credit. You know
Yeah.
we can't talk about players on other
Come
rosters.
on, I knew it.
If I answer that question, Steve, I'm going to get a call. My cell phone's right there, and Ken Fiore is going to call me right away, and we're going to have tampering. And I'm talking about how excited we are about this draft. We're going to lose a draft pick if I answer that question.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, can a player then who maybe that you didn't select in a draft and you had an opportunity?
That's a good point.
Can they evolve over a couple years? You're like, okay, this player is better than what I thought, and he fits what we're trying to do. And it doesn't have to be about your quarterback, but can a player show that type of growth as to where you really get sweet on him, so to speak?
No, that's an outstanding question, and that's why you evaluate players at every point in their career, and that's why it's so critical as we go through free agency and again possible trades. We're evaluating every player. You're never going to look at a report from last year or the year before. We're going to look at the evolution of the players, and so yes, to answer your question, it is we have to be detailed and evaluate players in every phase. Look, it's the same way with people. You can have someone that you knew at a certain point in their career as a coach, and then now 3 or 4 years later, okay, where are they at this point in their career? We all grow and adapt. So speaking in general about any player, that we have to make sure we have recent reports and know where they are at this point in their careers.
Terry, I love that. In terms of growth and adapting, and everybody has a different opinion on every player, right? And that's what you're trying to do in the room and see what everybody has to say. So there was a lot of talk with how you guys were going to use Bijan Robinson, taking him where you took him a year ago. I'm just curious what Raheem's conversation with you is like when he came in going, this is what I maybe envision for a back like that. Have you guys kind of talked about his evolution going into year 2?
Yeah, we're still working through that, and that's a part of going through the process and going through our players and spending time with the staffs. What I'm excited about with this staff is from whether we're talking about Zach or Jimmy or Marquise, who has been here, is we have some really smart coaches that are always learning and adapting, and they're open-minded. So we'll have specific things that we want to do, but we're going to make it fit our players and make sure the scheme fits our players, and we're going to go out and add some more guys. So I'm very excited about this staff here because I know we're going to get the most out of every player on this roster. We're going to go out and find some more and make sure we're ready to roll this year.
Yeah, you got the O-line, you got the running backs to pound the ball. But Terry, you talk about you're evaluating some things with your area scouts and whatnot, but just maybe if you can, just tell us about the overall depth and talent at the quarterback spot of the prospects entering this year's draft.
Yeah, good depth, no doubt. There's some really good players and some different flavors. So there's different types of quarterbacks that can do some different things. And again, we're going through that process right now, just with the scouts initially. Then we get the coaches involved. And like I said, we have some really smart coaches, some really good guys that I'm excited to really attack that with, so we know what we're looking for specifically. But it's a really good group of quarterbacks this year, not only in the draft, but like I said, free agency, via trade. There's some really talented players available, and we're excited to attack that.
All right, we'll have you on further, Terry, to talk about in depth about those specific free agents. Never mind, we won't do that. Don't worry, we won't put you there. Sticking with the draft,
Terry will give us a great answer.
He's going to tell me to ask the question, and then he's going to say, we can't go Tyler go there. I'll ask as well, stick with the draft. Another spot, looking at your defense, Terry, looking at your defense, I'm looking at the edge spot. What do you see out of this class? Is this maybe a class where there's, some years there's a couple at the top, and then there's almost maybe sometimes a gap before you hit the next bunch? Is this one that you can find guys in different rounds that can rush the passer from the outside?
Yeah, there is. There are some really exciting guys at the top, like you said, but also there's depth throughout, and there's really good players throughout the entire draft. And I have a lot of confidence in our staff. I know we'll find those players throughout the draft, but it's strong in that area regarding the pressure players. But this draft overall, it's going to be a really fun year. It's an exciting year. And we got a couple extra draft picks this year. I'm excited about that because it's a very deep draft. And there are definitely some pressure players, not just the edge guys, the outside backers. There's some interior pressure players. So it's exciting.
Terry, going into your fourth year now in this position, what are some of the key things that you've learned?
Yeah, I think anytime, kind of what we've talked about, where you can get people at different phases of their career, and the key is to continue to learn. And always, God gave us one mouth and two ears for a reason, because we always need to be learning and listening and evolving. Every year is going to be different. But I think specifically sitting in this seat, you need to make sure you surround yourself with really smart people and listen to and learn from them. And that's what I'm always trying to do. And I know the people around us are always trying to continue to learn, continue to adapt, because every year is going to be different.
Awesome. Terry Fontenot, Falcons GM, joining us on the NFL Report. Steve, he wants to keep all these draft picks, by the way, so he's going to watch what he says on our show to make sure he gets to capitalize on how deep this draft is. And we're excited to keep an eye on you guys down there in Atlanta, Terry. I mean, you are a fascinating team to watch this offseason with everything that you guys have already done, and we're looking forward to what you're doing. So thank you so much for joining Steve and I on the NFL Report.
Appreciate it, Terry.
Thanks, guys.